It's the Growler with PD&Jay, here to analyze for you today. From Growler Bears to Jay's got stats, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Growler Podcast.
All right. There it is. Paul Dehner Jr., Jay Morrison here with you. I'm here in Cincinnati. Jay is from the weird, creepy darkness of some sort of highway adjacent Marriott. I assume points are being gathered for you in the Chicagoland area tonight.
No, it is not a Marriott. I wanted to stay at the same hotel with Mike Petraglia so I could carpool with him. So I ate the points and I'm staying at a Hilton Garden Inn.
Wow. The sacrifices that you make for Trags. Unbelievable.
Well, he was the MVP of the day.
Really?
Because Kelsey Conway and I did not have umbrellas. Trags had 3. He had 3 umbrellas in his car. So I would be in a fetal position right now, not able to do this podcast if he didn't save me with an umbrella, because it dumped for most of the practice.
That was apparent, judging by the topics of conversation and production in the passing game afterwards, judging by kind of what we saw. We've got a bunch to get to. Of course, the Athletic, we have 3 people that cover the Bears, so I was kind of in contact with them during the day about what was going on there. Obviously, you and Kelsey, Trags, all up there. Dan Horde, of course, and the team Bengals, all there. But it was under lock and key a little bit up there today. So we'll get. I don't know if they made you do fingerprints and facial recognition to get inside of the door up there. But it looked like it was pretty intense Fort Knox-like situation. You know where it won't be an intense under pressure Fort Knox-like situation? At BetMGM Sportsbook, Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Banks a week from tonight as we record this. Yeah. So on the 22nd, the evening of the Bengals-Colts preseason game, live show is back. We will be down there 4 o'clock at BetMGM Sportsbook, Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Banks. We will be doing it just like we did the last home game. We'll be giveaways. You'll have the $3 Cincy lights, the $6 nacho trays. You may be out of Tyler's touchdown crunch, but I guarantee you we have more weird stuff giveaway. We have grand prizes. We gave so much free stuff away to people, bonus bets. I lost track. The graders was circulating. I mean, I lost track, honestly, of everything that we gave away to people. The grand prize was spectacular. It went to a non-Bengals fan. I think people need to show up and redeem Bengals fans, considering a Vikings fan went home with the big haul last time, including the Drake Kirkpatrick signed helmet. So come on down and say what's up. We'd love to have you.
I've already started crafting my Green Day Smashing Pumpkins Bengals crossover trivia questions.
Wow. How many do you have?
I have 3 so far.
3?
I'm not going to, I don't know we're going to use them all, but I'm going to come up with as many as I can and maybe use the best 1 or 2.
I love it. I love the idea of, like, there's got to be a way of figuring out if this person is a former Bengal or a former member of a band, of somebody maybe Smashing Pumpkins or Smashing Pumpkins adjacent, or a Green Day, or a song. I feel like there's a way to blend those 3 together.
That's a good idea.
Guess what they're from. I feel like that could be coming our way. If you, Growl Pals, think you have some ideas, send them to the Growler Podcast at gmail.com. If you have any good crossover questions for us to trot out with the Green Day and Smashing Pumpkins concert happening at Great American Ballpark that night, it is going to be a chaotic party, and I am here for it. There will be Bengals talk, though, so you know that. Well, we've got Bengals talk now, Jay. Can you explain for people what the hell was going on in terms of information that was allowed to be relayed in Chicago today, and how this thing went from, hey, big open to the fans and media joint practice, to the best kept secret.
Yeah, they knew rain was in the forecast, and early this morning they knew it was going to be pretty steady. And so they just closed it to the fans. And when they closed it to the fans, that closes it to social media, closes it to everything. Like I get that they don't want you taking videos of plays from the stand. They wouldn't even let anybody take still photos. Sam Green from the Inquirer came up to shoot practice, and he stood and held Kelsey Conway's umbrella for 2 hours. He wasn't allowed to take a single picture outside of team stretch. And who wants to take pictures of team stretch? So yeah, it was crazy. And we even asked, is like, well, yeah, I know we can't tweet play-by-play and all of that, but if there's an injury, and the Bears said, well, that'll be up to the Bengals. And I checked with the Bengals, and they said, no, you can't tweet anything until practice is over. So that's why you saw, as soon as practice ended, just the flood of tweets. I had to make sure I was like, when I was crafting texts to copy and paste into a tweet at the end, I'm not tweeting right now. I'm just writing this on my phone. It is just, I've never been at a practice like that. And I guess it's like that for the Bears all the time. And they if there was anything taken video wise during the stretch or that 15-minute period at the beginning, it has to be pulled down from 24 hours after. So if you tweeted it out at the end of practice, a guy stretching, you have to take it off the internet 24 hours later. It is really strange. It's a different world from where we come from, where the Bengals let you shoot video and still photos of almost every practice. And the thing was, what they went back and forth whether to move this inside or not. And I just don't think they were. I think they expected steady rain. They didn't expect the downpours they got, because it would let up and then it would come down heavy again. And it was not an ideal scenario for either team. The issue is, if they had moved it inside, which was one of the contingencies, there's only one field inside. So they would either got half the work done, or the practice would have gone 4 hours instead of 2, because you can't have two fields running at once. And I think that's what led them to keep it outside. It didn't look like there was going to be storms. There was no issue of lightning, but I think the heaviness of the rain caught everybody by surprise.
I mean, we don't need to go deep into their decision to do this, but I don't understand practicing outside but not letting fans in. Like, if you were going to practice outside, then the fans should be able to come in. If they want to sit in the rain, let them sit in the rain. Like, I don't understand it. It would, to me, if you're going to say no fans, that's because you're planning on moving at least a portion of it or significant amount of it inside. But neither here nor there. Let's talk about what actually did happen at the joint practice today. And really the big story is the injuries, and back-to-back 2 serious Bengals injuries where you have a player going off on a cart with leg in an air cast, and that was running back Chris Evans at the end of a kickoff coverage period. And then not long after that, Deontay Smith going down, kind of screaming on the field as he's on the ground, and then going off the field on the cart in tears. And you know, two areas that were both of these guys were really smack in the middle of roster battles, fighting for the last spots in their rooms. And so tough to see that happen. And we don't have anything official or final on that. There's some reports starting to swirl out there, but neither of them looked good, right, Jay?
No, they did not. I mean, Deontay was literally sobbing. The cart went right in front of me where I was standing. I could hear him. I mean, you could hear him screaming on the field from far away, and then I could hear him crying as they took him off. Just awful. And you go back to when we talked to Frank on Monday, and Frank said how proud he is of Deontay, because I don't know that he was 100% ready to come in. He's gutting through this, and we're going to need him this weekend. And I'm proud of him for going out there and toughing it out. And so maybe what he was screaming on the field was frustration as opposed to pain, but it was a really uncomfortable thing to watch to begin with. And they blared music even through the 11s. They were blaring music the entire practice. The music went off, and then the next field over, they stopped practice too, just kind of out of respect for Deontay, because it was obvious it was serious. The Chris Evans was different. It was in a kickoff period, and the one field had finished, and then when he went down, it was the last play of the kickoff period. So people were respectful. Trey Hendrickson came over and took a knee near him. But with Deontay Smith, every single Bear player that was on that field, every single Bengal player came over, dapped him up before he rode off. And it was just, I mean, I think even Deontay, he had a real shot to make this team. Chris still kind of felt like a long shot. But Deontay, with what's going on at right tackle right now and coming back, I thought he had a real shot to make this team. And we'll see. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll be surprised and it's not as serious as it looked, but it didn't look good.
No. And yeah, you're right. You do never know. I mean, look at Charlie Jones, who was back out there today. And 1 week ago, we saw go off on the cart in something that looked similar to some of these. No, I don't think it was an air cast or that type of reaction, but it looked bad at the time. Went off on a cart. There were guys dapping up, like you never know until you know. And so we'll wait to get official on that as we record this on Thursday evening. But you're right. I think Deontay, you look at what's happening at tackle now, because it wasn't just Deontay today. What happens? Trent Brown all of a sudden is not out there at right tackle, and Cody Ford's out there at right tackle because of what Zach Taylor said, some tightness in his lower back. And for me, while a lot of people were obviously disappointed in the Amarius Mims injury, and you did turn to Trent Brown and say, well, Trent Brown, he this is why he's here. He's solid pro. He should be fine and ready to go, right? It wasn't that he won't be fine when he's out there on the field in the opener. To me, it was getting him to the opener. It was a guy who has come in and is having to work himself back into football shape and has to do that over the course of the next month, and has a long history of injury and issues of missing games and not being able to get onto the field. Can you get him there? And for your first real opportunity to have to pull him, and we're talking about tightness in his lower back, and who knows, it could be absolutely minor and precautionary, and he's back out there on Monday or whatever next week, but not a great sign. And that whole tackle room right now is just trying to figure out what the heck you're going to do and what's going on, what's serious and what's not. It's a mess.
It is. And it's a good point about Trent Brown. We don't know how much of it was precautionary, because there was a lot of guys slipping, receivers running right anywhere, guys blocking on kick returns, a lot of people slipping and falling today. And that would make sense, where if he's feeling a little tightness in his lower back, the last thing you want him to do is take a misstep and, do the splits on the field or injure it more. And it was definitely a possibility with how wet it was. But you're right. What you're talking now, Cody Ford, Jackson Carman, and Jackson Kirkland. Jackson Carman's going to have a chance at a redemption game. He's going to see a lot of snaps Saturday against Chicago. So we don't know the length, the several weeks with Amarius. We don't know how long the Trent Brown thing is going to go. But if both of those stretch out, and now you've got Deontay Smith out too, that's a dicey proposition to go into the opener with Joe Burrow and playing behind one of those guys at right tackle.
Yeah, and so you're just hoping that Trent Brown is fine, and who knows, maybe Mims ends up back in time for the opener. We don't. Again, we're still, we're still almost a month away. From that opener. It feels close, but there's still plenty of time in terms of healing from injuries, and so we'll see how that all plays out. But it today was not a good day for figuring out what's going on with that offensive line depth. And the last thing you wanted to see was Trent Brown already struggling with something. So something to definitely keep an eye on as we go forward, as far as what's going to happen with Trent Brown. All right. Cue up the Missy Elliott, right? I can't stand the rain. Will the Bengals ever be able to play well in the rain? Like, will Joe Burrow, is it just like once a drizzle begins, they just call it and forfeit so that they don't get hurt on them and just take the L at this point? I mean, a rough day for Burrow in the rain. The first thing mentioned by Joe afterwards, when asked about kind of the day and how it went, was tough to throw the ball out there in the rain, tough to do it, couldn't really do it real well. 3 picks, right, Jay? And
Mhm.
sounds like a couple more that could have been picks that were
Yeah.
close, uncharacteristic stuff from Burrow. What was your view of the rain influence when we talk about what happened out there today?
So, well, first of all, one of the picks went off of Trenton Irwin's hands, and a lot of ball. T. Higgins had 4 drops today. At one point, he just let the ball come into his body. He's like, I'm just going to catch it against my body. I'm not going to take a chance on dropping another one. So that was a big part of it. There was one of the interceptions was Drew Sample fell down. Now, it's not like he was in front of the defender. The defender cut the route, so that probably would have been an interception either way. But if you take all the drops out, there was probably 8 drops. Of Burrow I had him at 15 for 32, which is totally un-Joe Burrow like.
Wow.
But you take those 8 drops out of there, then it looks a lot different. But I think there was one ball where it just totally came wobbling out of Joe's hand, did not look good at all. That's what Zach said too. That, I don't know how much they can learn from last year's game in Cleveland. That was just such a disaster, but they fought through today. They still made some plays in the rain. And he said that was one of the takeaways is, you kind of, you learn from it and you learn which plays you can execute in weather like this and which ones you should not call. And so I'm sure, he's got these massive notebooks where he keeps all these notes. I'm sure that will be squirreled away there. But the rain had a big part of it. The Chicago defense was pretty good. Like you said, they could have had a couple more picks, and it wasn't weather related. It wasn't a drop ball. It wasn't a wobbly pass. It was just them jumping routes. And again, you don't have Jamar Chase out there, so you didn't have a lot of guys winning. It was not a good day for Joe Burrow, but I don't think it's anything to be worried about. Even if they play in rain again, you get Jamar Chase back on this team, and it's just a different situation if you get in a real game and you're dealing with that kind of weather. It's just a bad day all around. So many different circumstances working against him.
Yeah, I think that's part of this, right? Is even a bad day right now is a good day in comparison to where they've been this time of year the last couple of years. And that was something that Joe said afterwards was sort of, look, I mean, these are reps that I haven't had.
Yeah.
He's had to go through this learning and ramp up period in the days before the season starts or in that first game with nothing against another team, no joint practice, no real hard practice against another team, no preseason game, none of that. And has sort of said that that's a big reason for some of the rust and some of the things that you've seen. So maybe, and this is extreme rose-colored glasses, maybe you say, okay, good for him to go out there and get it out of his system today. Well, no, you don't want it to look like this right now, and you hope it looks better, rain or no rain. But I do think it's still better than what it has been in terms of where he's at this time of year and feeling good about things. You don't, you hope this doesn't continue. If you get a nice day against the Colts on Tuesday, let's say, okay, and you don't want it to look like that again, where there's a bunch of incompletions and then you start to wonder what else is going on. Is there something else happening here? I don't think we need to go there yet. I don't think you need to go there when there is such an obvious weather element. That it would be nice if they could throw the ball a little bit when it rains. Like you really like that can't be the debilitating thing at this point. Maybe they do need to build that dome. Maybe that's where they need to go at this point. But still, I don't put this high on the concern meter either. But you'd rather the opposite, but no one's going to be sitting here and being like, what, everything else we've seen with our eyes over the last 3 weeks is null and void. I mean, that's crazy.
And I will say too, 2 of his incompletions were batted down at the line of scrimmage. And a lot of times when the weather gets like that, the offense kind of turtles up a little bit. There's a lot of screens and checkdowns, and that wasn't the case. They were still kind of pushing the issue and throwing the intermediate. There weren't a lot of deep passes, but they were throwing the intermediate ones and guys that like Gesicki dropped the pass. He never drops passes. Irwin dropped 2, and he's got really good hands. So yeah, I agree there. It's the thing is you'd be able to pass in the rain, be able to run in the rain. And that was kind of the thing that Joe said first when he was asked about the performance day. He's like, well, we ran the ball well. Because that was like one they did do well. And I think that's kind of his way to kind of put off getting to the passing part, but he knew he had to answer those questions too. But it was good to see that Chase Brown had some nice runs and Zach Moss did as well.
Yeah, I do feel like, and that's a couple practices now. We saw one last practice, I believe. It was either Monday or Tuesday. A nice long run down the outside where Zach Moss was not even touched. That and you saw a few of those today. So that's good to see that maybe starting to move in the right direction, because there's some chemistry stuff that needs to happen between new backs, some new scheme wrinkles, this line, like getting all that kind of working together on the same page. Maybe they're starting to see that come together. On a defensive side of the ball, I thought, it's interesting. Dax Hill's still out there running with the ones and doing that again today. The one thing that was sort of noted to me from some of the Bears people was some of the Bears' nice plays did come against Dax Hill. A couple of touchdown by, I guess, was that DJ Moore on the slant, and then for a touchdown, and then Roma Dunze got him on a slant pretty good too, with a lot of space after that earlier in practice. So maybe they took advantage of Dax a little bit, even though he is the guy that is still out there running with the ones.
They threw at him a lot too. He did make some plays, and so he was active. CTB gave up a fade for a touchdown. So I mean, Caleb Williams looks good, and those receivers that the Bears have are legit. So it wasn't the Bears didn't have the weather related issues that the Bengals did. I don't recall ever seeing an option except for Jermaine Pratt's in 7-on-7, the very first play of 7-on-7. But I thought the defense held up well. The Bears took a lot of deep shots. I said, Burrow and the Bengals didn't. The Bears took a lot of deep shots, and Cam Taylor-Britt was talking about that after practice. Like, he thought they stood up to that pretty well. He had an incredible PBU, which the bench tweeted out toward the end of practice, and he was just talking about how the communication being night and day from last year. And we've heard that before from other guys with Geno and Vaughn coming in. Dejon Anthony had some first team reps with the defense too, playing safety. I'm interested to see how this Dax and DJ Turner thing's going to work out. Zach said that he's not playing any of his starters on Saturday. Well, he's playing one, because he did say Turner and Hill are both going to start or both going to play Saturday. We don't know who the starter in that group is yet. And I thought it was interesting too. He said that there's a long way to go. It's way too early to call that. And it's getting down to crunch time. So that kind of tells you how close it is. And he said, hold on, I've got it here. Slight pause. I thought this was an interesting.
It's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. Let the anticipation.
No, it's not that great, but he said it's way too soon to say right now where that is. Everybody still has plenty of opportunity. He didn't say both guys. He said everybody. I don't know if that means Josh Newton is. I mean, we haven't seen him run with the ones a lot, but I do think they like him a lot. And I just think that they're not ready to call that yet. I don't think Josh Newton's going to win that week one starting job, but he could be a starter at some point in the year. He's been really impressive. And I just think that they're going to use every opportunity, every rep, every practice, every joint practice, every preseason game to see who's the best guy to put out there opposite of Cam Taylor-Britt in the opener.
Let's not forget DJ Turner played immediately last year as a rookie. I mean, they're not afraid to do it. Now, Lou Anarumo will complain about it the entire time, but they're not afraid to do it. And if that's where they're at, if they feel like that's the best guy who's going to give them the best chance to go win. And so I think there is some precedent there. And also, just because the preseason ends with this battle specifically does not mean the Dax Hill, DJ Turner, Josh Newton competition ends at all. And in fact, I would think that this is going to be something that not only is a run up as you get into week one, but that first month of the season, is kind of that extended preseason too. It's sort of, it's halfway between regular season and preseason, where you're still trying out stuff. You're still trying to get yourself, in a position of learning exactly what you have. And the more time, Newton and Hill, the advantage they have is they're both on an ascending track, and that they have learning to do. I mean, Hill is learning a new position. Newton is a rookie. Like, the more reps they get, theoretically, the better that they could get. And so we'll see how that stacks up compared to where Turner is. All right, we can wrap this up, Jay. You have given us the full insight. Trags awaits for dinner.
Yes.
And you guys have a nice little kind of half off day in Chicago on Friday before the preseason game, which is a 1:00 kick on I think it's on NFL Network, but you can always find it on the flagship Fox 19 here in the Cincinnati area. And so make sure you check that out. And of course, read Jay in Pro Football Network, me on The Athletic. You know where to find it. And the Growlers going Who Day Light. Still going to be up tomorrow. We'll take all your questions. So if you're listening to this now and you feel like we didn't answer something, send it into the growlerpodcast@gmail.com, and Mark and I will get to it tomorrow. So, all right, Jay, thanks for your time.
Yep.
Thanks for kicking it from the Hilton Garden Inn. Looks like you're almost ready for bed. Congrats on not making that bed yet. You don't have to. Don't let housekeeping in. Lock those doors.
No, don't trust those people.
We'll talk to you next time. Have a good one.